What's up, state log community? Today we need to talk about something serious that's been happening with banks across the country. People are waking up to zero balances, their cards are getting declined, and there's a lot of confusion and panic spreading online. Let's cut through all that noise and figure out what's actually going on here. So here's what happened recently. Bank of America customers experienced a major outage where people logged into their accounts and saw zero balances. Now, just imagine this. It's payday, you need to buy groceries, pick up prescriptions, and suddenly your banking app shows absolutely nothing. The reality, this was a technical glitch. Bank of America confirmed it was a system outage, not a security breach, and no money was actually missing. Within a few hours, all the account balances were restored. But here's why this whole thing matters. It exposed just how dependent we are on digital banking systems that can fail without any warning. When these banking apps go down, people can't transfer money. They can't use Venmo. They can't even buy food at McDonald's because all these payment systems are connected. It's a huge wake-up call about our digital infrastructure. Now, let's talk about something most people don't really understand. Fractional reserve banking. Your bank doesn't actually have all your money sitting in a vault somewhere. That's just not how modern banking works. Here's the deal. When you deposit your money, banks are only required to keep a small fraction of it in reserve. They lend out the rest to make money. This system works perfectly fine when everything's normal. But what happens when everyone tries to access their money all at the same time? That's when big problems can emerge. This isn't some conspiracy theory stuff. It's literally how the banking system has worked for decades. The entire system is built on trust and the assumption that not everyone is going to need all their cash at the exact same time. Now, here's where things get a little more complex. There have been reports about the Federal Reserve conducting large repo operations. These are basically short-term, overnight loans that provide liquidity to banks. Banks trade securities for cash to make sure they have enough money on hand. So why does this happen? Well, banks sometimes need quick access to cash to meet their daily operational requirements. This is actually a normal part of how the financial system functions, though larger operations can indicate some stress in the system. The key thing to understand is that repo operations aren't inherently alarming. The Federal Reserve has used them for years to manage liquidity. What really matters is the frequency, the size, and the context of these operations. Here's a real issue that's been affecting people: government shutdowns and their impact on military families and federal workers. When the government shuts down, paychecks stop coming. But the bills, those keep coming. We saw reports about military families being directed to food banks because their pay was delayed. Some banks, like USAA, were criticized for requiring hard credit checks for their shutdown assistance loans, which could actually hurt people's credit scores. This isn't about the banking system collapsing. This is about how government dysfunction creates real hardship for the people who serve our country. When you have military members earning salaries low enough to qualify for WIC, and then they're being told to seek out food banks during a shutdown, that's a policy failure, not a banking crisis. There's also a legitimate concern about commercial real estate and how it's affecting regional banks. With remote work becoming permanent for so many companies, office buildings are sitting empty, commercial property values are declining, and the banks that lent money for these properties are feeling the strain. This is a real issue. Regional banks are particularly exposed because they hold a significant amount of commercial real estate loans. Defaults and late payments on these loans do create stress. But this is a slow-moving problem, not some overnight collapse. So let's be clear about what we're actually seeing versus what's being claimed online. What's real? Technical outages do happen, and they're incredibly disruptive. Fractional reserve banking means banks don't hold all deposits. Government shutdowns hurt families who depend on federal paychecks. And commercial real estate is creating pressure on some regional banks. The Federal Reserve does provide liquidity to banks as needed. Now, what's exaggerated? The claims of an imminent total banking collapse. Suggestions that the dollar is suddenly worthless. Comparisons to the Great Depression happening right now. And, of course, conspiracy theories about a hidden financial catastrophe. So what's the smart move here? It's not to panic, but to be prepared. Here are some practical steps you can take. First, keep some cash accessible. Not your life savings, but enough to cover a week or two of expenses if systems go down. Second, don't keep all your money in one single institution. Diversification applies to banking. Third, understand your FDIC insurance. Up to $250,000 per depositor per bank is insured. Fourth, monitor your accounts regularly to catch any problems early. Fifth, have a backup payment method, like multiple cards from different banks. And finally, build an emergency fund. Even $500 to $1,000 can be a total lifesaver. The goal isn't to fear the system, it's to be resilient within it. Look, banking systems have weaknesses. Technology fails sometimes. Government dysfunction creates real problems. But the solution isn't panic or buying into conspiracy theories. It's being informed, being prepared, and understanding how these systems actually work. Stay aware, stay prepared, but don't let fear-mongering drive your decisions. The banking system has survived worse than this, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a personal plan. What are your thoughts? Have you experienced any banking issues recently? Drop your comments below, and remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. This is State Log, keeping you informed. Stay safe out there.